It's a sexual assault. What does this say? Pearson and Dakota, but Pearson was legal. So she only get her $1,500. I call him. Only something I'm really eventually prosecuted. Not just 20 years. That makes sense. Justice Justice Raymond, are you calling this order?
Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock.
All right. Can you call the roll?
Justice Hall?
Here.
Justice Rayburn?
Here.
Justice Smith?
Here.
Justice James? Here. You got it, Colonel.
Who wants to present for attention?
Okay, my name's Elisa Marvin, for those of you that I haven't formally been introduced to, and I'm the new HR director. And I've been asked to propose a retention plan for Miller County that would compensate the employees who are of tenure, who have been here for quite some time. During the process of preparing this, I've come to realize that turnover and retention plays a large role in both morale and in the health of a company. And so I prepared handouts, and the first one just kind of gives a rundown of what the retention bonus is, or the retention plan. I'm not really sure, this is kind of preliminary, so I'm not sure what we want to call it in the end, but employee retention is an important indicator of the health of an organization. It's an important way to keep costs down, and by that we're talking about the time and money that we spend to send our employees to training and workshops. And a lot of talented employees also in today's market are pulled out from other places that pay more. And so our retention plan was a way to compensate the employees for their time that they've committed here to Miller County. On the next page, you'll see the proposal itself. We have two proposals. One of them will start at $500 and increase by $500 every 5 years. The second one will start at $750 and also increase $500 every 5 years. And I put together a schedule, and this is a fairly accurate but a little rough estimate of what it would cost us today if we implemented this. At the time that we did this, within the last couple of weeks, we had 38 employees who have been here from 5 to 9 years, 14 who have been here from 10 to 14 years, 10 who have been here from 16 to 20, and 13 who have been here 20 years plus. And on Proposal A, you'll see the cost of the county under each category. And then in the yellow at the bottom, you'll see the cost of the county as a whole with retirement and Social Security added in.
So 114,000 for everyone?
Yes. And that's for the 750, yes, ma'am. And the eligibility is what we have on the back. And in order to be eligible, an employee will have completed 5 years of employment. Not at the start of their 5th year, but they would have to have completed 5 years of employment. This plan would pay out on their anniversary date each year. If an employee is part-time and goes full-time, their eligibility won't start until the first day of their full-time of employment. So if they've been here 3 years as part-time and they go full-time, it doesn't start until their first day of full-time employment. Termination of employment, whether voluntary or involuntary, will result in forfeiting your time of service. So if I had been here 5 years and I leave and come back, I would have to start over with my time.
So why is that?
Well, that's the idea of a retention, is to keep you, and so you kind of forfeit the retention bonus if you don't stay. So it's pretty simple. I've kept it pretty simple. If there's anything that you want to add or any questions you may have, feel free. We can rename it, we can add it however we want.
If they move from one department to another.
As long as they're within Miller County, then that will be fine. So if they go from the assessor's office to the tax collector's office, it wouldn't change anything, as long as they're still full-time.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am?
Is there any way that you can lower the beginning person's salary that has no experience or whatever, that comes in, gets hired, and they're going to make the same thing as somebody that's been here 5 years, or someone that's been here 20 years, and there's only just a little bit of difference in their pay from those veteran workers?
Well, that's the idea of this retention plan, is to kind of separate.
But it does, but it's still, they're saying that someone that is newly employed is as valuable as somebody that's been here 4.5 years. You see what I mean?
I feel like they are, because we hire people that are trained for these jobs.
Okay,
And that's
Of course,
just
that's
speaking
up
for
to
myself
y'all.
personally.
but what I was thinking is that, is it fair to your employees coming in at the same, that base salary that someone that has 4.5 years in, that hasn't reached that 5 year?
Right.
So I was just.
I know that salary is the next thing that we're going to propose, that we're going to visit with you all about. At this point, I was just asked to come up with a retention plan
Okay.
to kind of separate that. So, like Leslie, who's been
Well,
here 20 years, and I've been here a year.
I'm in favor of retention.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm in favor of that. The reason I'm saying this is because I'm a former educator.
Yes,
Have
ma'am.
family in education, and of course, with the new law passed for the state of Arkansas, your beginning salary teachers are making $50,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have veteran teachers who haven't made $50,000 yet, but that first year teacher, and that's why I was wondering, is there a level here that you can put these first year people in instead of putting them up here at the top?
Right. And I may be wrong, some of the elected officials could probably answer this, but I think at one time, everybody was kind of on a level playing field. In the last few years, it's kind of gone up and down.
Because as an elected official, we have the ability to pay anywhere from minimum wage to that cap that y'all give us.
So that's depending on the
Elected.
office itself. Okay. You answered my question.
And I do think there should be a probationary period, like 3 months, to make sure, because we have a lot of people come in, and you know Stephanie, it's a revolving door. They come in, go out. As soon as she gets them on insurance, they're gone. And we lose that money. The county loses money that they have put invested in that person. So I really think there should be probably, like a 90-day probationary period.
Right now, we're sitting at number 60. The next person that comes in my office to be hired is going to be 61 this year, since January 1st.
And how many of those have left?
Probably 50.
Approximately.
I thought you had to be here 90 days to get another insurance.
You do.
If I may, I appreciate that question. So in my office, I think we're dealing with two issues. We're dealing with the ability of the county because of the funds to adequately compensate our employees. And then on the other side, compensate our employees that have dedicated their working careers to the county. This salary and retention, while they're both deal with pay, I think they're two separate issues. So what I'd like to see as an official is, like Laura said, have a cap. So it would be up to my discretion of what pay level I start someone at. I like my two new girls, I put them on a 90-day probation, and let's see what they have. My plan would be to, at least, they have to work a minimum of 1 year to get up to that cap. Because within a year, you'd be able to see that, and if my seasoned employees that have experience, if they're being compensated, which in reality, I don't think we can do it justice on the scale of paying our employees on the salary side, what their worth is, with the pay schedule. But if this passes, then it would be up to y'all looking at the salaries on how y'all want to structure those salaries.
The elected officer has the right to pay whatever they want, right?
To what you allow.
So that would
What you
be,
appropriate in the
that would
budget.
be up to that.
Of course, it has to be minimum wage.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, but if Laura wants to pay her employees more than you pay yours, that's okay? Okay.
As long as-
Well,
We just said that's okay.
And I would be
So
okay
there's no
with,
set salary schedule per office.
well, I wouldn't be
Y'all
okay
do
with
set.
her.
There is a cap across the
Yeah.
board.
As long as I have the same cap she has, I'm okay with that. But if her cap is 35,000 and mine is 29,000, that's an
That's a
issue.
problem.
That's an issue, yes. So
But that's your business and Laura's business, you know, because y'all determine that, right?
no,
You determine that.
As
Determine.
We've determined cap.
Oh, but
Yes, we don't
Yes.
determine what you pay your
Yes.
employees. Yes,
Right.
I understand,
We
okay.
turn a budget in and we ask for what we think we need for our office. And then y'all approve or disapprove or change it, however you.
Well, I'm in favor of retention. I mean, you know, it's up to the Quorum Court how they decide, but.
I have a question. Elisa had brought something up. She said if you leave and come back, well, on here it was saying, can you turn to that page, number 3? Next one. Okay, it says here termination of employment, rather voluntary or involuntary, will result in forfeiting previous time of service. So it's saying if you're terminated, you can't stack it.
Right.
But if you leave, like I have an employee that loved to go to college, she's come back, now she's working in my office, been there for 8 years, 9 years. So the years that she spent the circuit clerk does not count.
No, she wasn't on my came back.
But that's not what I'm reading this.
It says if it's voluntary, they wouldn't get.
If she voluntarily left to go to college and then come back, so therefore she loses.
Said that she would start where, in the beginning.
Again, she got to go at the beginning.
That's what this.
They're saying, but her bonus is what?
Okay. After I said, because retirement is continual, you just pick right back up.
But the salary would go back.
Okay.
The salary would go back.
So I've got a few things that I think about when I think about this, and I'm all in favor of retention and paying people for, you know, their years of service, obviously. There's a couple things from just different concerns. I don't even want to say concerns, but just things I think of. I think personally that it would be better if you had it merged in with the salary. You know, increase the salary as you've been here, and you have both pays, just have one. And a couple reasons for that is, one, it streamlines it for the budget committee when they go to vote on it. They only have to vote on one set amount, right? You know, they know what it is instead of having two. One of the reasons for that is, in the years past, we've had bonuses at the end of the year, or some foreign court said, we don't have any money, we can't give you bonuses now. You know, now it prevents the employee, hopefully, from losing their bonus, because now we can't afford it. Whereas if it's all wrapped in a salary, they have to be able to set that aside, and they're gonna hopefully spend more time and dedication making sure they have the salary money, right?
Well, this would be budgeted in each year.
Right, but I'm just saying in the future though. I mean, not necessarily right now, but like 10 years down the road, 5 years down the
The
road.
problem you'll run into with that is if you give it to the elected official, they can go and you have no say on whether they give it to the.
Well, that's what I'm saying, merge it into the payroll, kind of like the proposal I presented here about a month or so ago, where it's set in their pay scale. The more years you have, the higher your pay scale is, right? And it prevents what she was
But that goes
saying.
back to that elected official if they want to give it to them. For this way, it's in the budget, it'll be in HR's budget, and on their anniversary date, they'll automatically get it.
But in the payroll option I presented though, like, that's different from what we have now, where they have the cap where the elected official would say, you can go up to this amount, or you don't have to.
Right, we're not touching the salary right
Right.
now.
I'm just saying that's why-
Retention bonus.
That's kind of some of the reasons I think that it may be
After
beneficial.
speaking with a lot of the employees, though, they would rather have that money at one lump sum during the year, rather than have $500 spread out over 26 payrolls.
Because that was another question I was going to ask, how many elected officials, like, based on your employees, would support either or? Because for me, as a finance person, I hate doing tax returns, because to me, I'm doing the government interest-free loan for 12 months and not getting anything for it. I'd rather have a little bit of money back every month and not give them that interest-free loan, right? Because it's my money. I don't want to have to wait a year before I get it.
I say with our employees, most of them would rather have $500 up front than $15 a paycheck, because $15 a paycheck is,
Doesn't amount to
won't
anything.
never add up to nothing. You take $500, that's enough, maybe buy, 2 cans of gas or something.
But only that one time a year. And then it's gone.
Yeah,
But my concern too is this though, would this cut out, because, I mean, right now, we're talking about, this only affects 75 employees. And how many employees do we have, like 300 or something? So will this affect their ability to get the retention bonus at the end of the year that they get around Christmas?
But we would like to just be completely separate from that. We've thought about that, and we would like for this to be considered, I guess, more on the payroll line, and that be roughly.
Yeah, my thing is, I don't want it to be used against, at Quorum Court saying, oh, well, we gave retention bonuses, so we can't give Christmas bonuses, and, so the majority of the employees won't feel appreciated.
Just so I'm clear on this, I don't think this is being presented as a bonus. I think it's being presented as retention pay, but it's not included in our salary budget. It's included in October, and it would be paid out over the course of the year where there's not a large amount coming out. That was one of my concerns, was at the end of the year. I know you can't call anything a bonus, but when you come together for, when you start planning your budget, if there's money in the budget, and we've had a great year, because those retention pay that we were getting, they're not guaranteed. They're based on the amount of money that's in the budget. I don't know why that would affect, looking at that and doing something in November, how this would affect that.
Well, just because they could say, we spent $100,000 this year on retention pay, so now we don't have the money to pay holiday pay, or whatever.
That's what they call it at the end of the year, it's not retention.
It's incentive.
But
It's incentive, yes.
Yeah. So the purpose of that apparently does not, I'm not saying that, I don't know how that helps us retain employees. Obviously, if we've already been through 60 employees this year. I don't know. I mean, I'm all for it, and I think that's a great
You're saying you
thing
don't see how
to
this
do at the end of the year, but I think we're talking about two different issues.
So you're saying the retention pay or this part, you don't see how it retain employees?
I mean, you
The
could
one
say,
in November.
but you could say the same thing for this. How would this help us maintain?
Well, because if I work 9 years and I know that 10th year, I'm going to start getting
But if you
an
work,
additional $1,000 every year, that would probably
but you're not getting it anyway.
Well, I can understand, you have to work 5 years to even be vested in our retirement plan. The whole purpose of retention is retaining employees.
I get that, and I am saying, I do agree that it's two separate things.
Yes.
But I do think that one would have an effect on the other when it came down to the incentive pay at the end of the year. And that would be for all employees versus 75 or 100 employees.
So, but then you're gonna go back to, if you're gonna look at that kind of argument, you're gonna say, well, okay, this person hasn't worked here 2 years and they're getting the same amount of money that I'm getting. I worked here 20.
Well, it's the same amount, I think.
So it's not the same thing, is what I'm saying.
And I agree, and I think that you're misunderstanding. I'm not saying that I'm not for this. I'm saying I don't want this to impede on the other.
At the end of the year.
At the end of the year.
Yeah,
Because, I
so-
mean, there are more employees that have not been here 5 years that will not get this, that would be affected by the incentive at the end of the year.
And I agree with that, because you obviously don't want one to counteract the other and force some people not to get anything because some people got something. And that's why, personally, that's why I was saying about the adding in with payroll somehow and structuring it into where everybody's getting something going up, right?
Well, you're talking about as a raise, and I think we would do that separate.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I will interject that I've completed 4 years, almost on my 5th year, and I've only received that pay one time,
Right.
one time in 4 years. Yes, one
Well, like
time.
last year, we got the COVID
Yeah,
pay.
and
So
there was
the
nothing, right.
board says, you know, we didn't get the incentive bonus or whatever because we had COVID.
Well, I'm saying
Came
that.
out from a
And I
time.
think it, yes, and I think it is a great thing, especially to help compensate Christmas.
Call the meeting to order. So, you have any more questions about?
This figure that we've got here, it's a very, this is the beginning, but it won't be that next year. It'll be changing every year.
It will,
Yes.
as long as these same people stay and then
And this will change.
the new ones added to it as the years go on.
But
There is a potential to
This is
change.
the beginning.
Right. And then that's something else. It is the,
What
yeah.
now?
Some of these people are going to start dropping off and retiring.
Okay.
So,
So it will change every year.
but it will change. It could go up, it could go down, it could
Yeah.
remain relatively similar.
But this is all dependent on the budget finance committee too.
Exactly.
So, do you have any questions?
I'm not on the meeting on this list.
You can still add, you got any input? No. Because it's a broad topic. All right, I don't think I'm ready to make a vote on it tonight. I don't know.
I think we need to present it to the Quorum Court for whether we agree with this
Right.
as a committee or, and send it to the Quorum Court, is what we need to do.
Yeah, I think we at least need to have it bring it brought to them and have everybody in the loop with it, because like I said, I don't feel comfortable voting on it, yes or no, right now. Just, not saying I don't agree with some of it and don't think it's a great idea. I mean, I think retention bonuses are great, or retention pay is great. I want to call it a bonus.
Well, we're going to go budget finance before we go to the full Court?
Yes.
So would it have to come out of your committee and then y'all would propose for it to go to budget finance?
It's not the case that we would make a recommendation to the Quorum Court, and that's what we should consider at this point. Whether the committee wants to recommend it to go forward to them.
Yes.
If you're in agreement with this, as a committee member, the four of us, then if we all agree, if there's a quorum, then it would go to the Quorum Court for the whole court.
Well, would it go to budget finance?
You think there's budget finance?
Well, it'd have to go to the budget finance, and then after that, to the court.
Like I said, I've represented them and let them kind of have their input as well.
I would suggest, I'm not a committee, I'm just saying, you might want to send both proposals to the budget committee and let them kind of, because they may want to do, if there's enough money, they may want to do the better one. You know?
Like I said, I was kind of waiting until we got the pace raise stuff as well, and we have all the options.
Yeah.
We should have all that presented before we vote on it. So again, that's why, and kind of like
So
what Paul
I
said.
would I would ask where you at on that, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, but this was supposed to be done in February and March, and
So
they
when we had-
retroacted back to the first of the year,
First
so
quarter, yeah.
we're fixing to be in our 6-month meeting.
So we had,
Right, I mean,
yeah,
but.
so with the pay raises, we had most of the elected officials at the courthouse get together, kind of hash some stuff out, see if we could agree on stuff, then we're going to present to the other elected officials, have them come up with some ideas. I'm waiting on the stuff right now. I was told that it's ready to
Did you
present
say
to
you already met? Because no one's met with me about anything.
You were at training, I think, somewhere, they told me that they had brought up with you when you got back. So, which we can discuss that more if you want. But I was told that you went with them. And Carla was at the meeting that we had.
I have a
So,
so.
I have a question, is the committee not gonna vote whether or not to go ahead and send it to the court, or are y'all gonna vote to table it? What, I mean, Michael says he's gonna vote on it, are you not gonna be entertaining motions?
It's gotta go to the budget.
Yeah.
Finance committee. It's gotta do that.
Yeah, that's fine. No,
But we need to vote whether we want to send it to the budget finance committee as a committee here.
Right.
So, you want to make,
And I'm sorry I was late, this was developed by the HR department?
This is the first time I've seen it in print. I think it's a great idea, but I'm not ready to recommend it. I think the Budget and Finance Committee does need to see this, but I'm not ready to say, hey, we're ready to go with it.
well, are you ready to send it to the budget finance committee to let them determine whether, because we can.
I think other people do that.
What would be your issue now? I mean, if you don't mind me asking.
I'm hearing a lot of conflict between the elected officials, just in the conversation. Nobody's totally in agreement with it, so I hate for us to go with something and present it as everybody's in agreement until we get everybody on the same page.
I think everyone agrees to that. I think we just we're chasing rabbits. You know, we brought up holiday pay, we brought up pay raises.
Correct.
This is totally separate. It doesn't have anything to do with holiday pay, it doesn't have anything to do with pay raises. This is something that's on its own.
Okay, so no holiday
No,
pay.
I don't think it will be addressed at any time, but tonight, that's what's on the table.
Okay,
So
okay.
you have several elected officials here. And the question is, are you in favor of this retention plan or not?
Definitely think we need a retention plan for sure.
So if it's,
And
yeah.
I'm hoping this is the right one. I just don't want to recommend it. Now, present it to the Budget and Finance, yes.
But yeah, and that's
But not
what will be on the table tonight.
Okay.
So we're going to have a vote on presenting it to the budget committee, but not necessarily.
Make a motion.
A motion, send it to the budget finance committee,
Need a second?
and send it to them.
I'll second.
Let's have some discussion here. This record, what's been made a motion is that we send forward to the budget committee this recommendation for a retention plan.
To discuss it.
Okay. And it'll include both schedules.
Yes,
And it's, the idea is that they then will,
decide if we can afford it.
okay.
You want to roll call?
Okay. You call the roll?
Justice Hall?
Yes.
Justice Rayburn?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Justice Smith?
Yes.
And Justice Jones?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Mitchell?
Is there a meeting, budget and finance committee schedule?
I was waiting to hear from this today, and might be one Wednesday.
This week?
Okay, I'm going to pass out a letter that I wrote to Mary Pankey when she was the chairman of the committee. It's dated February the 28th, so it's a little dated. But for the most part, the information in it is still correct. I will
make a couple of additions to it. My understanding is that my office, which is the prosecutor's office, their budget has not, my budget has not been approved for in, I'm sorry, I don't mean, I'll just sit down, it's very rude for me to have my back to them, but my budget has not been addressed, approved, and it's May of 2023. In my letter, I'm asking for two things. Number one, I'm asking for another investigator in my office, and I set forth the reasons therefore. When I wrote this letter, we had 17 pending murder trials. We now have 22. Since February the 28th, we've gone from 17 murders to 22 murders pending in Miller County, and they're all pending trial. We have 25 sexual assault cases pending trial. My investigator does more than y'all think he does. He tracks down witnesses, which you don't understand how hard that can be sometimes. You and I probably have the same phone number. I have the same phone number I've had since I got a cell phone. Very seldom do the people I work that I need to find have the same cell number. They don't live in the same house. So he tracks down witnesses. He interviews witnesses. He serves my subpoenas. He interviews, like I said, he interviews witnesses. He is my IT guy. As a matter of fact, we're in trial this week, and he stayed late today to set up all of that video and audio equipment for my trials. I keep him busy. There are 5 full-time prosecutors, 2 COVID prosecutors, and a part-time prosecutor. So I have 9 prosecutors, and I have 1 investigator. And between all of us, we keep him on his toes, and I need help. I know that we cannot compete with Bowie County, but just to give you an example, Bowie County has 1 investigator for every prosecutor. They pay their investigator $60,000. Allen makes, $34,730. And I can promise you he earns every penny of that. So I am asking for a second investigator to make the same amount as Allen makes. And you'll see some statistics in my letter. Those were provided by the Texas Arkansas Police Department, Miller County Sheriff's Department. All of our violent crimes are up. Terroristic acts are up by 178%. Carrying weapons at school. So violent crime is up. So I obviously, I need help in getting my cases prepped for trial, and I just need another investigator to help me do that. The second request is I'm asking for a raise for my employees. When I wrote the letter, I didn't have any idea what the Quorum Court was going to do or was even considering, but I quoted the inflation rate, which averaged about 8% last year. If you took beginning and end, the federal government gave an 8.7% increase to Social Security benefits. And when I took this job, as a matter of fact, I wrote an email to the Budget Finance Committee that I found it very frustrating that some people were more concerned about other people's budgets than their own. And I vowed I wasn't going to be that person. But when I was preparing this letter, I did some looking, and I don't begrudge anybody what they make. I don't. And if it sounds like I do, I don't. I don't begrudge anybody what they make. And Carla deserves every penny she earns. But Carla received a 22% raise, and the other secretary in the county judge's office received a 33% raise. That's huge. And so, I think my 8% is on the low side at this point. I don't know what the county's budget is, but evidently there was enough money to give those kinds of raises, and I would like my employees to be considered for some substantial raises as well.
How many employees do you have?
We have 8. Is that right? 8 employees in my office. And then, 8 employees in my office.
Have they received the 8% raise?
They haven't received any raise.
They hadn't received.
No, ma'am. The only employees that received a raise is I have one employee making $24,000, one employee making $25,000, and one employee making $28,000. Those three were raised up to the $29,625 when y'all gave across the board raises to those people making less than $29,625. Those three were bumped up to that base amount, but no other employee in my office has received a raise. And the one that received the raise to the $29,625, she was making $28,665, so that was a less than $1,000 raise per year. So that I feel like that was certainly, I'm not saying it wasn't appreciated, it certainly was, but it certainly was not the raise that I hoped that she would get. So those are the two things that I have asked for. Like I said, I set it out in my letter, and the only thing that was changed is that we have more murder cases pending than when I wrote the letter. You will also notice that I deleted $3,500 from my budget when I sent in my budget request. I deleted $3,500 from my budget for telephone and fax because the county general pays those. I also deleted $33.92, which was a lease purchase principal that CAR has been paid for. And also on my budget, there is I think it's a $4,000 cell phone line. You can take that off. I've told all my deputies, it was to pay for my deputies' phone bills. I've told my deputies that they can pay their own phone bills. So I have tried to cut out some expenses from my budget. And
Do you have an amount that you want your employees, a certain percentage?
Well, I asked all like I said, I asked for 8%. And I don't know, once again, I swore I wasn't going to worry about what other offices are doing, but I am. If other offices are getting 10 or 15%, then I'm going to be aggravated if I get 8. But my initial request was 8, and to be quite honest, I know that sounds like a raise, but it's not a raise. They're just keeping up with inflation. So my folks aren't getting a raise. They're just able to buy the same thing this year that they could 2 years ago on the salary that they were being paid. So I obviously asking for a raise. I know at one point the Budget and Finance Committee said that there would be raises across the board. I heard that last year. Haven't heard it since. So I don't know what Mr. Pender's plan was when he made that announcement, but it hasn't happened in my office.
Next question, just so I understand.
Yes, sir.
You have a budget to work with each year.
Yes, sir, I do.
So you employ the number of employees that budget allows you to?
No, sir, I'm allotted so many employees, I cannot add positions to my office unless you approve it.
Okay, so you have a specific number of
Yes, sir, I have
employees that you've been told you can hire?
Yes, sir, and they have specific job descriptions and job titles. And so that is why I'm asking for an additional position in my office, because it has to be approved by the Personnel Committee before I can add a position to my office.
And this is what Mr. Pender advised you to do, is to present it here so it can go to the budget.
But yes, ma'am, I tried to,
You've done what you're supposed to do?
yes, ma'am, I tried to present it to the Budget and Finance Committee on more than one occasion, but was not allowed to. And then I was directed to the Personnel Committee, which is where I am. And now I'm told, or Mr. Pender told me that once I had the opportunity to present it to the Personnel Committee, that it would then be presented to another committee,
To the budget?
to the Budget Committee, and maybe at some point it'll actually be presented to the Quorum Court. So,
You've done your due diligence.
well, I have tried, yes, ma'am. I've tried since last December,
I know.
and it has just not been successful for me.
Chairman Rayburn, it seems to me office needs this additional employee. I don't know. And the question before us, should she be allowed to have that one? I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yeah, I think we should have two motions for this. I could be wrong, but the reason
I would think that we can't do this, we have to go to the Budget and Finance Committee we can present it to them like we're doing with the other.
That's what I said, I was gonna say we should probably have two motions. One for the additional role and the second for the raise. And the reason I say that is two.
Sure, it's two separate issues.
But also, I know for me, I've said in the past here recently that I would like to focus on raises across the board for everybody. I don't want to go back to giving raises for one person or another, and so I want to stick to that. However, I also agree that you probably do need another body.
And I appreciate that.
Being that those are two separate entities, I think it'd be more fair for everybody, not just your office, but everybody, that if we present that as two different motions.
Well, the question, I mean, the matter of raise, is that even anything that the Personnel Committee takes up? I mean, it seems to me that's a matter of whether the Budget Committee feels they can afford it.
It was requested to go through the Personnel Committee first, then go to the Budget Committee, so,
Okay, it is supposed to come through us.
and that's why we were working on that.
I have a question, or a statement, I guess I should say, because I'm like Connie. I didn't prepare anything today because I've been trying to follow y'all's rules, which evidently change at every meeting, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's bad when we're told in December we're going to get raises, or at least present a budget for a raise or proposal for a raise, and it's not happening. So before, and yes, I've been told we start here, and y'all present our budget or our request for raises to the Budget and Finance, and then they present it too. So if you're going to consider, I mean, another employee, I have no problem with, but if y'all are going to vote on the raise for one office, then you need to let us run out to our office real quick and get our information and present it tonight.
This is not voting on the raise. This is voting to be able to present it to the Budget and Finance Committee.
But how many people, how many offices are on the agenda tonight?
Three.
So I wasn't told to prepare something for tonight.
So what I was saying is,
how's the information getting out? I mean, I was told to give it to the Personnel Committee, and they were going to present our, not personnel, HR department, and they were going to present our stuff to y'all tonight. So I'm not, because I'm trying to follow the rules, and I know.
Which I have to remind them also, as they told to the HR.
Is it in the HR
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, and that's why we were trying to go through the HR and kind of get all that, and I was asked to give them until the end of May, because they had open enrollment and all that, and I've been asking a couple times in the last week where we're at with that, and I was told that they've submitted everything. I'm just waiting to get that information so I can review it and see where it's at. And I was going to present that at the next personnel meeting, but this meeting was called before I got the information. And that's why we don't have that information.
Who called this meeting? I did. So, I mean, so did you send out notices to all the elected officials that you called the meeting so we could prepare it?
I called Stephanie and she sent out notice.
I was notified to put a retention on there as number one, and then I got emails back from Mr. Rayburn to add Connie Mitchell, Kelly Rowland, and today I was told Wayne Beasley, the sheriff.
But when you do your agenda, it goes out to the
Everybody.
press, and we're not supposed to change it, correct?
You can always add that.
All right, so we'll call this meeting in order. We're going to go ahead and, Mr. Holland, you said you presented a motion?
Yeah, I'm prepared to make a motion that we forward the request for a second investigator in the office of prosecuting attorney.
I second that.
Okay. Justice Smith, second.
I'm so sorry, no, please forgive me.
I believe, Hallie, did you second?
Second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
And my understanding, Justice Rayburn, is that your position is raises across the board and not cherry pick one office at a time.
That's,
and I 110% respect that. However, that has not been the case since the first of the year. Certain offices have gotten raises, certain offices have, and to me, it ought to be across the board, but it seems like this office gets a raise, and then this office gets a raise, and then this office gets a raise, and that's just not a fair way of doing business. And
I will acknowledge that did happen, and that's why I said, going forward, I want to get this resolved so that everybody is fair across the board. I don't want to,
Well, point of order, we're really not taking up that question with this motion. It's only a motion to recommend this new position.
right. So, clerk, can you call the roll?
Justice Hall,
Yes.
Justice Rayburn,
Yes.
Justice Smith,
Yes.
and Justice James.
Yes.
And like I said, for the raise, I mean, we can,
See, they included just an investigator. They didn't include, when he made his motion, an 8% raise. You're right.
That's correct. It's
Right.
only
Right,
a
it's only for the position, but you were asking for a raise.
yes, Justice James, this is what I was told, that the Budget and Finance Committee was the committee I needed to address about raises. And then, and I'm going to speak perfectly freely, I don't think that Justice Pender wanted me to speak at the Budget and Finance Committee. So he told me, you need to talk to the Personnel Committee, which makes no sense to me because it's a budget issue, not a personnel issue. But doing as I was told, I am talking to the Personnel Committee about a budget issue so that y'all can say, okay, Budget Committee, Connie came to us like you told her to, and now we're kicking it back to y'all.
But only the thing about it is, this motion that he made
Mhm.
didn't include
right.
No, she just said, he just said an investigator.
Right.
No, she already knows that.
Well, my question is, without there being a motion, and your point is well taken, if there's not a motion to go to the Budget and Finance Committee about my raise, does that mean it's not going to the Budget and Finance Committee meeting? I mean, the Budget and Finance Committee?
We can have a motion to vote on that because you did present it.
Yes?
However, like I said, I personally am not in favor of it. There's 3 other people on the
You're not in favor
I'm
of,
voting, supporting it right now, because I want to do it across the board with everybody, instead of, like you said, cherry picking who gets raised and who doesn't. That's how I feel about it.
But again, to be clear, you understand, it's your understanding, there needs to be some recommendation from this committee about the raise to be forwarded to the budget committee.
that's
correct?
what, yes, that is what the chairman of the Budget Committee told me, is that he would not, he's not going to
Entertain it.
Thank you, I was trying to think of the right word. He's not going to entertain it unless it comes from y'all. And so I'm just merely asking that the Budget Committee consider raises. And Justice Rayburn, I get what you're saying 100%, but it is frustrating to be May, and there have been, other people have gotten raises. Some pretty darn substantial raises that were effective in January, and my poor folks are.
Well, would you like to see the 8%, or is it another figure that you would like?
Well,
I'm going to make a motion to get this thing moving on,
Yes.
to the budget committee.
You
But
made the motion.
What, do you want to make a motion for
no,
that?
I want to know what percentage you like.
Well, here is my biggest fear, Justice Hall. If I say I want an 8% raise, and then other offices come in and say, I want 15, I want 20, and they go, okay, you can have your 20. Gee, Connie only asked for 8, so that's all she's going to get. I don't want to undersell myself. I don't want to undersell my employees. If there's a 15% across the board, I don't want my folks to get 8% and then say, well, that's all Connie asked for.
And that's another reason I'm
So,
not really wanting to vote
I
right
just
now. because-
I just want my folks treated fairly. That's all that I'm asking.
Like I said, that's another reason I'm not prepared to vote in favor of it, because I don't want you guys to get less than somebody else. Right? You need to be fair.
Chairman Raymond, may I ask this, are you aware of the discussion that's been taking place in the budget committee about an across-the-board raise for
So that was
all
something,
employees?
that was something that we were trying to work on in our committee. And we
In our
presented
committee,
to,
meaning this one?
no, not this meeting, but yet the personal committee, yes. I presented something here about a month ago,
Well, I saw that schedule you prepared, but I frankly couldn't follow it.
and the HR department, several elected officials were getting together, and they said, we're going to take this, we're going to see what we can build with it, and we're going to represent it. and I still have not got anything back yet. So I made a couple calls this week.
Sounds
Still
like
haven't
everybody's
got
on the same boat.
Well, the boat is sinking, don't it? Just
Yeah,
all
it
it is
is.
sinking.
It is.
And I'm gonna, yes, sir, I'm sorry, if you're raising your hand to talk to me.
What you're asking us to do is recommend that the Budget and Finance listen to your, acknowledge your request.
Yes.
You can prepare whether it's 8, 10, 15% to the Budget and Finance. All you're asking us to do is recommend the Budget and Finance look at it.
I try, yes, sir, if that's how I need to get to the Budget and Finance Committee, then that is how I need to get there.
I
And,
make a motion that we present to the Budget and Finance that Connie Mitchell comes in, present her budget to the Finance
We
Committee.
need to propose to present this to the Budget Finance Committee right here. Is that what I'm about this one?
if that, yes, however y'all want to handle it, I'm just trying to get there. And I've been thwarted, and so, and poor Justice Coward's over there, and he's trying to crawl under the table, and I'm gonna call him out, because he's on the Budget and Finance Committee. So, if you're comfortable, what's the Budget and Finance Committee's plan? Do they have a plan?
Well, my thoughts on this, it's been a hodgepodge and a mess for the 23 budget year. Some people, how many offices have not gotten a raise this year? It's not been agreed.
Well, what are you considering the 29 that you bumped up for raise?
I'm not, that's not the way, I mean, it's a raise, yes, but that's not.
It was just a lateral move.
Yeah. So, what I really think needs to happen is, and I'm not real smart, so I don't have a good grasp of it at this point, but there's departments that have gotten their raises, and they know what they are, and there's departments that haven't. So it's pretty simple to me that the Budget Committee gets together, and we make a decision about these departments that have not gotten their raises, and put it into place. It's our job, and I would like to see us do it. I said we would do it the first quarter of the year, but I'm not really, that hasn't happened. So, yes, I'd love to do your office, it should already been done. I'd love to do all these offices, they need to be done. And I'd rather do it all at one time, just do everybody and get behind us. Because we're halfway through the year almost. So that's my thoughts.
And in your defense, you have done 2 times at least.
I can't, yes, ma'am.
And I'm on the Budget and Finance.
Yes, ma'am, I have tried.
Do we all have?
Yes, I am. I'm on the Budget and Finance Committee, and I'm with Jimmy, with
It was February the
Justice
6th and March the 13th.
Twice in February.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
twice in
I
February.
remember you're coming, and that's why I want to present
Thank you,
that
and I
to-
do appreciate that.
To the Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay, well, and I do appreciate your allowing me the opportunity to speak to y'all, and I would certainly like the opportunity to talk to the Budget Committee as well, if I need to.
We don't have a meeting scheduled yet.
Yeah, we should just have a workshop and a plan to take enough time to get it over with. Move on to, the rest of this year, and then, we'll be ready for the next budget process, which really ain't that far away.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we get Connie on the next Budget and Finance Committee to look at your budget.
And I appreciate that. Let's hope that the chairman of that committee will allow me the opportunity.
And we're only voting to have it presented, not necessarily saying we support or don't support, right?
No numbers, just have it presented. That way you can get your numbers together.
Can you amend that to include all of the offices?
Not today. This is what's on here. Now, y'all are gonna get dealt with for sure, because we've got our budget and finance people that wanna get it done. Connie is the one that, and I've heard her 3 or 4 different times,
Kelly, she's on.
and I've heard her being turned down.
We all have, we all have even aware that y'all have a meeting.
Now, pass our motion, board, do we have a second?
Could you repeat the motion, please?
Motion is to present the 8% raise to the Budget Committee.
Not the 8, you're not presenting a
Yes.
8% raise.
Or not, what's in here?
Yes, to the Budget Committee.
Just to
We're
look
going
at.
to read it, look at it, see what,
Is that correct, Howard?
I didn't include numbers in mine, I didn't include this. Connie can go back and she can change all this to 8% or 20 or 30%, whatever numbers you want to present to the budget finance committee.
But basically, as I but if you are recommending that this committee recommend to the budget committee that
To
she
look
be
at-
allowed to make her presentation
Yes.
regarding raises.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. It's not our business to set the numbers.
And Justice Toombs, second. Clerk, like to call the roll.
Justice Hall,
Yes.
Justice Rayburn,
No.
Justice Smith,
Yes.
and Justice Toombs.
Yes.
Thank you all very much for your time this evening.
At least it was a yes, Connie.
Kelly?
Mine's reasonably simple. It's not about a raise, it's about a reassignment. So, I just mainly would like clarification as to why the coroner's position is treated so differently from other elected officials. It's a part-time position. I did not receive any raise. As a matter of fact, my salary was cut from the previous coroner's salary because the COVID money was taken away. It's just this, I gave you.
I don't think I have
It's right there. You just flip past it.
Oh, no.
that.
I don't have.
This is,
There's the,
these are the ones that I gave at the previous meeting. It was told that we would not discuss it at that meeting. I'm in the same boat as the prosecutor. I've been at every meeting of any kind of anything for quite a while. I understand that the previous coroners may not have spent an inordinate amount of time in the office. You have my calendar through the end of April. And it's my understanding that a full-time position is 40 hours a week plus. And I think you'll see, except for 1 week in there where I worked 29 hours because I tore the cartilage in my ribs lifting up the ceiling. And so I had to farm out more of the calls than normal to my deputies. The deputies coroners are taking approximately 25% of the calls that come through the coroner's office. Now, they get paid per call. They are still considered contract labor. So they don't receive any of the benefits afforded to part-time or full-time employees like the COVID money. We never missed a death during COVID, but the deputy coroner's got nothing. I guess mainly I would just like an explanation as to why it can't be reassigned as a full-time position. As an elected official, I already get insurance. I already get retirement. There's not really any difference in that. The difference is that all of the other elected officials, or most, as some said, got substantial raises. And the salary for the coroner previously added COVID money, and that got cut. So the salary for the coroner, Carl,
What is the?
for how long has been
Around
21,761?
Oh, not that long. It used to be less.
I thought you said it was.
No.
Well, it's 21,761.
No, it's different.
21,761 is your salary.
Probably 2017?
No, it's probably 17 for that, but
Whenever I mean, it's not enough.
Okay. It's 21,761.
Let me be clear, you're saying that you're considered to be a part-time employee?
That's correct.
And you want to be full-time?
That's correct.
And this salary is based upon what?
Part-time.
Part-time, but I mean, they've got is it so much an hour for so many hours per week? You're enumerating.
You wouldn't want to see the per hour pay. Those are my hours per week at the end of the line.
Yeah, this is what each week you're actually working.
Yes, sir, it is.
Just based on a 4-hour week, it comes out to $10.46 an hour.
Which is less than minimum wage.
And that's only based on a 40-hour week, not counting the week she worked 52, 51.
I understand that prior to the changes that have come for the coroner's job,
that it was not as extensive. I can assure you it is now. There are no less than 8 reports on every death. If a deputy coroner goes on a call, they do the preliminary report, I have to do the rest. I have to review every case that comes through. I have to correlate our 2 electronic reporting systems. One of them does the death certificates, one of them is the coroner reporting system. And I have to go between those 2 and make sure that every death is reported. And I am very proud to say that at one point last year, we only had 51% of the deaths reported in our MDI log. We have 100% of the deaths reported now. And they're reported and documented.
I got a few questions for you. To date, how many deaths have we had so far, and what is today's?
I checked this morning and it was 128.
And what's today's Julian date, do you know?
What's what?
Julian, since the beginning of the year. You know,
At the last meeting on the 28th, it was the 128th day and I had 120 deaths. I do know that.
Almost one a day.
It's almost one a day.
And then, so what's the minimum amount of time it takes for one death?
If it's a hospice death, roughly 2 to 3 hours, depending on if I get the documentation from the hospice RN or I don't. If I don't get it, I have to go back and keep asking for it until I get it.
So
An average call death can be anywhere from 6 to 10 hours.
Okay. So what makes some of the calls, or some of the reporting and all that take more time?
Well, the laws have changed. Effective July 1st, every drug-related death must go for full autopsy. So they've also changed that law enforcement does no longer submit the body submission form to the crime lab. That comes through us. And so every one of those deaths, we have to do the body submission form. If it's a suicide, there's a separate suicide form. If it's an accident, there's a separate accident form. And so all of those have to be filled out, documented, and then I have to review them whether the other deputies do it or I do it. If I work the case, my chief deputy reviews mine, and I review everybody else's.
I have a question. Are you requesting the coroner's job be made full-time?
Yes.
Is there anything that you would compromise with if we could not make it full-time and maybe raise the salary some?
Yes, I would ask for the salary to be raised some and then more money put in the extra health budget.
So are you, I don't want to assume anything, by asking to have it moved to a full-time role, are you also asking for the pay raise equivalent to all the other elected officials?
I think that would be fair.
I'm not saying I don't. So if we didn't do that, like she was saying, do you have a dollar amount that you would?
At least 30,000 and 10,000 added to the extra health budget.
And the extra health budget is the money that goes towards the deputies?
For the deputy coroners to take a call, yes.
Okay.
So I originally requested 10,000 in this year's budget, and it,
From your salary?
no, for the extra health budget.
You needed 10,000 for extra help.
I need, if it's gonna stay part-time, then I need 10,000 more, because I'm gonna back off on some of the calls that I take. I can't continue to work 40-plus hours if it's designated as part-time. And so I'll need some more money for deputy coroners to take those calls. I'll still have to review them, but at least that will take some of the legwork out of my responsibility. Because right now, they're only working about 25%.
So how difficult, or it may not be difficult at all, but having the deputies get involved versus you handling the case start to finish by yourself, does it make it more difficult having them involved, or being streamlined with just you doing it, is it making it easier?
It's a little difficult right now because most of mine are still training. There are only 4 of us now that are certified medical legal death investigators. 2 of us are working on our national, me and my chief deputy. But I have 3 that are not certified yet, state level. We're working on that, but they're only offering 3 trainings this year. And so 2 of them will go this summer, and then I believe 2 of them are going to wait till fall. So it's a little more difficult because I have to go behind them and I have to help them through their process and then still go back behind and review.
Well, I believe in the beginning you describe them as contractors to your office, is that right?
That's correct. They're listed as contract labor.
And do they do contract labor for others?
I'm not real sure why they're listed as contract labor, to be honest with you. They should be part-time employees. The only thing I could see is maybe that I could not guarantee them so many hours a week on a regular basis, because it depends on when the calls come in.
Well, you said they get paid per case, correct?
Correct.
I wonder if that's part of why too.
Well, and that's what I say, it may be that was more logical to pay them per case than assure so many hours per week, because I can't do that. I mean, the month of May has been slower than the first 4 months, and so they're getting less money this month than they got last month or the previous months. That's the only reason I could see that they may have been designated contract labor.
What's your suggestions?
So, I mean, both options seem viable. I guess we present.
Always presented.
Present both of them to the budget committee.
And I know there's some trepidation because I do have a full-time job. I would like y'all to understand, I do much of this work during the school day. So my students, I have the good fortune of working 22 years in education, and so most of my assignments and my coursework, I have been able to set where it is student-driven. And so they can be working, and I'm working on reports, I'm working on cases. They know, and my district has supported me, that if my phone rings, I have to answer it, and I have to take those calls that are related to the coroner's office. They also are working with me where if I have to leave to take a call, I can't find a deputy coroner to take it, then someone else can come in and watch my classes while I do that. And there have been several days that I've had to just take off because it was a case that I may have worked early in the morning and I knew for a fact that it was going to take most of the day. And so I took a vacation day. I worked 4 nights, all night, and got home at between 5 and 5:30, which is normally the time I get up to get ready for school. I got in the shower and I went to school. So the fact that I don't have 8 to 4:30 office hours just simply means that I'm available 365, 24/7. I've answered calls at every hour of 24. Many times hospice calls come in the middle of the night, or wee hours in the morning. And I don't know why somebody always dies Sunday morning between 1 and 5.
Well, if this was a full-time position, would you no longer teach? I mean, is that a...
I would still, I have 1 year left for retirement. And as long as the district cooperates, and I don't have any reason to believe they wouldn't, because they know my kids will be taken care of and they'll continue learning while I'm doing my job. I'll continue to work that 1 year. There's a possibility in December that I could leave and retire. But I'm working full-time hours now.
And I don't think you're seeing that many. That's obvious, I mean, just based on looking at this, right? And I'm not going to say that just because, you know, somebody has a 40-hour-a-week job, they can't have another full-time job.
Thank you.
People do it all over the country. So I don't even think that, for me, that's not even an issue.
Well, I mean, it's probably not my business for that matter, but I just...
Well, I know it's been an issue to others.
Yeah, some people have expressed concerns about that in the past.
I mean, I respect the question.
Well, back to the designation that your elected position is considered part-time, where does that really come from?
I have no idea. I honestly have no
The
idea.
previous board member probably.
It's just always been that way.
It's always been that way.
Well, I think there's been discussion amongst other agencies, the retirement system, the Association of Arkansas Counties, about corners, but it's been a minute since I've checked or talked to them at all.
Well, we get retirement.
Oh, I know.
Double time, just like other
I
elected officials.
know, but there's always been a question. I mean,
So-
Stephanie, we've talked about it several times.
So I'm going to ask one question that I don't like asking because I don't like comparing things or people, right? But just in this case, across Arkansas, do you know how many percentage, any numbers, anything? How many coroners are full-time versus part-time?
You just happen to have that on this sheet.
'Cause
I looked at all of them, but I did the class 4 counties that are comparable to us. And several of them have full-time, but they are all, everyone that I talked to is working to realign the coroner position with the other elected officials. Baxter County has done that. And then Union County has a full-time coroner. Greene County has a full-time coroner. They also have part-time people. They have deputies, and they have, Union County has 4 deputies and 2 receptionists. So they also have people that can do the paperwork, do the phone answering and all that.
And they still have a full-time coroner?
Yes. Boone County has part-time. And I did not get their numbers on that one. Baxter County, of course, runs about 1,000 deaths. But he just got reassigned, his pay just got reassigned to equal the other elected officials. And all of them that I spoke with, that's their plan, is to get them aligned with the other elected officials. We're elected officials, we are. And we work as much as any other elected official, sometimes more. I don't understand. I know it's always been that way, and maybe in the past they didn't work that much. But I can assure you now we do. I've shown you we do. And I don't see that slacking. I see that with these extended circumstances for autopsy, I see that just increasing. And I'm fortunate in that if one of the jobs has to suffer, it's not going to be this one. I've been given leeway in the other one.
So we pass it. Was there a motion? Present this to the budget committee?
I'll just be really honest with Kelly. I'm not in favor of making the coroner's position a full-time position. I am in favor of a raise for Kelly, for the coroner's position. Now that's my opinion.
Can I ask why not a full-time?
I feel like this is kind of personal, but if you have a full-time job, and I know your administration lets you do that, but somebody's got to be lacking. If you're in a classroom and you're called out to do another position, to me, I don't think it's fair to the students or whatever, but after maybe you retire from your full-time position, then I would probably be in favor of that. But right now, I think you need a raise, personally. Now, that's my feelings. I'm just
You said you
being
may
honest
retire
about
in a
it.
year or next year?
I have 1 year left for full retirement.
And how much do the elected official get paid now? Was it
The elected officials here, 55.
55?
Except for this
And you
year.
currently make
judge.
21,761.
Mhm.
And earlier, I apologize for not remembering the exact number, when it was asked if you didn't get it full-time, what number would you be happy with? You said 10,000 for your part-time and 10,000 for yourself?
I said 10,000 additional for the part, or the extra help, and then a minimum of 30 for the salary.
30 total, okay. So
Roughly
basically,
close to
$8,200 raise per year plus 10,000 for the part-time, or for the deputy.
Yes.
And
Do
then,
you get insurance for them coming?
Just like all the other elected
Do you get
officials.
an allowance for your travel? Do you get mileage or anything for your travel?
No, they did reinstate the car allowance.
They did, okay, so you do have a car allowance.
Has it gone in the budget yet?
Do you
It
have
was in the
a,
budget, but I don't have anything telling me to pay it. They didn't put anything in there. All they did was assign the amount of money that went in there.
What do you need to do that?
Just tell me what I need to do with it, how they want to handle it. Are we back paying? Are we, are we doing any of that? That was my question.
You want to ask them up for?
Whose decision would that be?
Motion to.
This one, since they said it.
Just, I think we just
And
need
be
to
part-time?
send it to the meeting and ask what they can afford to raise the salary. Do you get a phone allowance?
They did add money for the phone.
Okay, so you get.
It's not they don't pay my personal phone, which is where most of the calls come, but they do pay, they did put money in there. I've been paying it prior to this, but, they did put money in there at the last meeting.
Personal allowance for cars.
Not-
and for phones.
No, not personal allowance to pay the coroner phone in the budget.
So then we're looking at present a motion to forward it to the Budget Finance Committee for review, to see if there's money in the budget and if they are in support of it. Increasing it to,
No, I'm not making the motion.
I'm just asking, is this what, to 30,000?
I would make that motion to send it to the Budget and Finance Committee about a raise.
Of how much?
I'm not going to
You don't
specify.
know?
I'm just saying a raise for the coroner's office.
Okay, so that's the motion.
And that would have to be up to the budget finances, how much they can afford to do that, and if they're willing. I'm willing as a,
So the recommendation is not going to be to reassign it for a full-time position, is that correct?
I won't recommend that.
Okay.
I would recommend the raise
If the committee can't recommend that, can we include the extra money for extra help
for extra help.
in the proposal?
Yeah.
Because without that, it's,
A raise
It's
for
not
the
gonna work.
coroner and then extra help. That's what I would recommend. Okay.
It's a budget and finance committee decision. It's not,
That's
it's not
the
your
motion.
self.
And my comment is, this is really not, we're not the budget committee.
But it goes to.
We either recommend, make a recommendation, make this full-time, or not.
Motion, I'll second.
well, and let me clarify, the reason I'm presenting to you is the same reason that the prosecutor presented to you. I've tried to present to the Budget and Finance Committee several times, and it was not to be discussed.
Accepted.
Clerk call the roll.
Now, what's the motion?
What are we looking at?
Present this to
Present this to the
the
Budget
finance.
Finance Committee, based on what she was asking for, increase to 30, leave it part-time, and then add 10,000 for the deputy.
I'm not interested in sending numbers to them, but
Well, that's
they
what,
have to look at it.
yeah, just look at it. That was her, that's what she asked for.
Yeah, to look at it, yeah.
Justice Hall?
Well, I'm afraid, I'm going to abstain because I don't understand the motion.
So the motion is to present it to the Budget Committee for them to review and decide.
Understand what? The question of whether it should be full or part-time, or the question of the raise?
Both, the question of full-time versus part-time. If it's part-time, increasing it to 30,000, adding 10,000 for the deputy pay. Because that's what she's asking for. So we're just
Okay, we
pushing
have a
it.
motion from Ms. Toombs for that, and Howdy's second. Your second. Yes.
Justice Rayburn?
Yes.
And Justice Smith?
No,
And Justice James?
Thank you.
Okay,
it's my turn. I'm gonna say I'm gonna keep everybody here. No, mine's real simple. I got a good problem. I'm at staff, I got full staff at the sheriff's department. That's only for a few minutes. I got 5 of them supplied to the Arkansas State Police. Don't blame them, better pay, better benefits, and I wish the best for these young men. 3 to 4 of us probably will be hired. I'm at max capacity on my deal. We just got there this week. I want to add 2 more positions, temporary positions. I got a young lady that's already certified that wants to come to work, and that will give me a female on A squad and a female on B squad.
Then once them guys leave these the 2 extra positions, the reason I'm asking for 2, just in case something great comes up, you know, in the next month or 2, because by the next few months, these guys will be leaving. So if someone comes up tomorrow, or next day, that's certified, that can fit right in, that's go, I hate to say, because in our business, you can't say, let me check, because then they're over at the city, they're somewhere else. Yes,
Five
ma'am.
positions you've got 5 positions that are leaving later,
Yes, ma'am.
and you've got 3 people that you're going to hire?
No, I got 1 right now.
One.
I'm allowed 10 deputy slots.
Okay,
I'm asking for 2 more slots temporarily.
temporary.
And as soon as one, as soon as when one leaves, that moves it back to from 12 to 11, and when another one leaves, that moves it back to 10. But I just won't take this opportunity because it's extremely hard to catch
Exactly.
certified officers, and that's all I'm asking.
That was quick.
She ready to get out of here?
Yeah.
So the temporary positions would only be until such time as those,
Yes, 2 of them, will they leave?
Vacancies happen.
And actually, I'm only going to hire, if given granted this, we only granted these 2 positions, I'll only be hiring 1 immediately. And of course, when I get back to work in the morning, I may be down 2. But I know for sure 3 or 4 out of these 5 are fixing to be gone.
You're not asking for additional money, you just.
No, the money should, we have money there because we've been behind all this time. The money's good. I think we should be running, Lord, I can't imagine at least 3 or 4 of these guys not getting hired by the state police, so.
I make a motion that we give him the 2
Second.
temporary spots.
Second.
Second.
Will clerk call the roll?
Justice Hall?
yes.
Justice Rayburn?
Yes.
Justice Smith?
Yes.
Justice James?
Yes, ma'am.
4 in favor.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Is there a motion to intervene?
Make that motion.
A second.
Jack, don't say everybody.
All opposed?
Oh, yeah.
He's the chairman, no, you got one extra chairman.